Hello, YouTube. I have a real surprise for you today. It's me, but I'm not moaning. Keeping it real simple this week, I am here to talk about 5 games that I'm really looking forward to. Ignore the dirty shirt, it's sun cream. I just got back from Antigua, and apparently sun cream doesn't come out. 2023 was just huge game after huge game. But now Final Fantasy Rebirth is out. Is 2024 already over? Well, no, obviously not, but 2024's stereotypical AAA market does look like it may have shot its wad too early, because if you look at the calendar, there's not much in it. But fear not, narcissism is here to save the day, because I want to talk about me, in particular, 5 games that I am really looking forward to. No Rest for the Wicked. This is the next game from developers Moon Studios, the creators of 2 of the best games ever made, Ori and the Blind Forest and Ori and the Will of the Wisps. Based on those 2 games alone, it's impossible for me not to be excited about what's coming next. However, what makes this one just a tad spicier is that Moon Studios have ditched the Metroidvania for a full 3D RPG, which is no easy feat and does raise questions about whether they can actually pull this off or not. I mean, I'm pretty fucking confident that they can, but still, it's a brave move. I think what makes me so excited about this one is that the developers seem to have taken elements of what made Ori so good and applied it to this game. I'm talking here specifically about the world design. These days it tends to be the go-to thing, especially for indie developers working on these kinds of RPG experiences, to include roguelike or roguelite elements, which basically means that parts of the game, like the world or item drops or enemy locations, are randomly generated. It's a technique that works really well in certain games, but it's always a payoff situation where you're basically dicing with the quality of the experience in order to add replayability, because every time you play something that's randomly generated, it will by definition be different. However, that means that you're relying on a computer to generate it, so there's no guarantee that the version that you get at any one time will be good, or at least as good as the developers want it to be, if that makes sense. So you see this a lot in indie developed RPGs, but where you see it way less is in Metroidvanias. In Metroidvanias, the world is handcrafted and every section of the map matters. It allows the creators to have full control on how the game plays, the plot beats, the drops, and so on. And obviously this is pretty important for Metroidvanias, because usually it's just one map and you may revisit sections with new abilities that you unlock as the game goes on, which allow you to create and open more paths, and that's kind of how progression works in Metroidvanias. And that's what Moon Studios have implemented into the world of No Rest for the Wicked. And based on how well thought out and exquisitely crafted both of the Ori games were, I have really high hopes for the things that we're going to get to experience in this. I also really loved the art style in Ori, and they seem to have applied a similar style of art to this game. It's not the same art by any stretch of the imagination, but it looks really unique, and that kind of thing just makes me tick. The game just looks so fucking cool, and I think you lot should be as excited about it as I am. No Rest for the Wicked is dropping into early access on April the 18th, 2024. Dragon's Dogma 2. In my opinion, Dragon's Dogma, the first one, is probably one of the most overlooked RPGs of all time. Probably because it came out just a few months after Skyrim in May 2012, and let's be honest, if you were playing an RPG in 2012, it was Skyrim. Not only that, but it was released on the PS3 and Xbox 360 just a year before the release of the PS4 and the Xbox One. It did eventually get a port to those consoles, but for whatever reason, it kind of just fell into the shadows. Those that did play it though will probably attest to how fucking good of a game it was, for its time anyway. Yes, if you go back and play it now, the mechanics feel a little bit outdated, but it's still a great game nonetheless. Dragon's Dogma 2, however, seems to be getting a little more limelight. Or maybe that's just me, I don't know. Is it just me? Maybe because the algorithm bosses of the internet know that I am excited for the game, so that's why it keeps appearing on my YouTube front page. I love RPGs, but there are a few things that constantly bother me about these big modern RPGs. The first is that the daunting nature of the open world and the freedom of choice to do exactly what you want often leads to exploration that, even in the most beautifully crafted worlds, just winds up being boring. It's often pretty intentional as well, because they want to draw the player back to where the action is happening. However, in a recent interview with Dragon's Dogma creator Hideaki Itsuno, he said, "Travel is boring? That's not true. It's only an issue because your game is boring." Shots fucking fired. But sassiness aside, it seems that there's a real emphasis on Dragon's Dogma 2 to remain fun no matter where you go or what you're doing whilst you're playing the game. In the same interview, he talks about how the Grand Theft Auto world was one that inspired him for this game. Obviously not aesthetically, but again, reading between the lines, I think that Rockstar's random events have been a big inspiration in this game, and probably even dialed up. So I think the point that's being made here is that in this game, no matter where you are in the world, something will always be going on. It's all about walking that line between an open world adventure with set plot beats like your Red Dead Redemptions or your Witcher 3s, and your sandbox experiences like Tears of the Kingdom. In the first two, if you stray from the path too much, you find yourself disillusioned and bored of the game, and eventually find yourself drawn back to where the quests are and where the plot is taking place. But in the latter, you're expected to go out and create your own adventure. In Tears of the Kingdom, just walking from point A to point B, you will encounter a bunch of different things that will get you sidetracked. So what Red Dead 2 lacks in freedom, it excels in story, and what Tears of the Kingdom lacks in story, it excels in freedom. Dragon's Dogma 2 seems to be walking the path between the two, and that's really fucking exciting for me. And playing into that is the other thing that really annoys me about modern RPGs. That is that you're always kind of guided. Everything you do, there's a waypoint on your map or something to follow or answers that tell you where you need to be. Apparently, Dragon's Dogma 2 doesn't do that. There are no quest markers per se, and when you do pick up quests, it's on you to get out there and do the necessary exploring and investigation to figure out what the fuck you actually need to do. And I just love that. Dragon's Dogma 2 is releasing on all platforms March 22nd. Braid Anniversary Edition. Okay, technically this game is already out. Right fucking meow for you to go and play. But this year we are getting the Anniversary Edition, and the thing is, Braid is without a doubt one of the best indie titles ever created in my books. But the thing is that this game came out at pretty much the dawn of indie game popularity. It launched way back in August 2008 in the Xbox 360 arcade era, back when indie devs were first really getting their moment in the sun. And even then, I feel like the one that took all the limelight back then was Super Meat Boy. So whilst your Dead Cells, Hollow Knights, Insides, Celeste, etc. gained massive commercial success in the modern market due to the boom in the indie market, Braid was one that was left in the dust in an era gone by. But this game is incredibly unique in every sense. The art style, the obvious nods to its video game influences, its beautiful take on classic video game plots, the mind-bending puzzles and time mechanics, the sound design and OST. This is one of those rare games that leaves a deep and real sense of connection that feels bigger than the game itself. That is what makes indie gaming so special, because when they hit, when they get it right, they give you experiences that you will just not find across any other form of media. The game will test you and push your brain to its limits, but the sense of reward and the poetic narrative will just keep you coming back time and time again until you edge closer to the beautiful end game. This game is honestly a masterpiece that has just been overlooked by so many, and I'm so happy that the Anniversary Edition is coming this year, and hopefully now Braid will get its time in the sun. Braid Anniversary Edition is releasing on all platforms, including Netflix. Yes, Netflix, on April 30th, 2024. Earthblade. Okay, anyone who's a regular on this channel will know that Celeste is one of my favourite games of all time. A true masterpiece, and one that reset the bar for indie developers. A bar that, in my opinion, has still not been reached since Celeste. That and that alone is why I'm so fucking extremely excited for the release of Maddie Thorson's next game, Earthblade. Because, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of good indie games out there, but since Celeste, nobody has made another Celeste. But if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be Maddie and the squad. Anyway, aside from this wonderful trailer, the devs have kept their cards pretty close to their chest on this one. We don't really know what to expect aside from what you can see here. The devs did do a Q&A where they answered some things like how Celeste really focused on traversal and movement, and whilst that's definitely still an important factor in Earthblade, it's also a very combat heavy game, so that's adding a whole new layer of gameplay which we haven't seen from these developers so far. But if the same love, care and attention that went into Celeste's traversal goes into the combat in Earthblade, we're going to be in for a treat. And to be honest, not just the combat, just all elements of the game. Because that was one of the things that really stood out to me on Celeste, was how they took the age-old concept of simply just moving around and applied some really clever mechanics to make it feel so satisfying and so rewarding. The feedback that players received from just doing these simple things in Celeste was second to none. And if that kind of intuition's been applied to the new mechanics in Earthblade, then I think we should be in for something really, really special. This is another game where the world has been completely handcrafted, and that is something that we know firsthand firsthand that this development team absolutely excel at. So just the idea of jumping into another world that is developed by this group of people just makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. Not to mention that Lena Raine, the Celeste composer, is also the composer on Earthblade, and honestly there is no better video game OST out there than the Celeste one. It was just immense, so beautifully interwoven with the things that you were seeing on the screen whilst you were playing. And I'm not the kind of person that sits and listens to video games OSTs regularly, but this is one that I do listen to all the time because it is just that good. So yeah, even though I can't give you any reasons directly linked to the game itself why I'm so excited for it, I just cannot stress enough how talented this group of people working on this game are, and to see the band getting back together, so to speak, for their next piece of work just really excites me, in the same way as when you find out your favourite band is putting together their next album but you haven't heard anything of it yet. I have the utmost faith that this game will absolutely smash it. My one gripe is that we don't have an official release date yet, we just have 2024. So I'm hoping that they stick to it and we see Earthblade before the bells chime on December 31st. Static Dress Rouge Carpet Disaster, the video game. Okay, so I'm rounding this video out with a bit of a curveball. Speaking about when your favourite bands announce they're working on their next project, the UK band, in fact Leeds-based band, Hometown Baby, Static Dress have released a Game Boy Color exclusive game based on the themes from their debut album Rouge Carpet Disaster, which is a fucking immense album, by the way. Now this band in particular, Ollie, is well known for just taking creativity to the next level. You all know I play in a band, we tour, we love it, we enjoy making music, but we are just a bunch of blokes in our 30s, not super in touch with what looks cool and how to truly market your band. Static Dress though are just pure visionaries, and everything they do is so intentionally tied into their own themes, and it's all just a cut above the rest in my opinion. Now I've always known that Ollie the singer has been into video games for a long time, and so when I found out that this band were actually creating their own video game and releasing it on Game Boy, I had to get myself a piece of that. Now, this is a tiny operation. This game is limited in its numbers. Basically, if you don't have it yet, then you ain't gonna get it. And it's obviously not coming from an established development studio. It's been made by one guy, one single developer called Alex, who's brought the shared ideas between himself and Ollie to life to create a video game adaptation of the album. Now, technically speaking, this game is already out with the first copies shipping this week. That being said, apparently more than 3,000 people were waiting on the website to snap this game up when it first came out, and of course I was at work and I fucking missed out. Luckily I managed to snag one of the limited second run, which will be the last by the way, but I'm not going to get my hands on this game for at least another month until that batch is shipped, because remember, this is a totally human operation. In order to ship these games, Alex has to hand put together the cartridges in the US, then ship them to Ollie in the UK, who then has to actually go to the post office and post them out to the addresses. Nonetheless, I cannot wait to get my hands on this game and see what it's all about, and when I do, I'm sure I'll be posting more about it. The best bit though is when I say that this game is exclusive to Game Boy Color. I mean, it's exclusive to Game Boy Color. I watched a stream where Ollie himself was very vocal about how they won't be releasing it anywhere else but on these cartridges. No fucking ROMs, nothing. And by the way, that first and second drop is it, apparently. They're not going to be doing any more runs of this game. So if you want to play this game, you have to have A, already bought it, and B, own a Game Boy, or at least a modded version of it. But yeah, still my favourite handheld console of all time is the Game Boy Advance SP, and the fact that I'm going to get a new game to play on it, releasing in 2024, that is themed around a band that I really enjoy. Exciting. A quick and obvious honourable mention to Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree. I know it's not a full game, it's a DLC, but it's more Elden Ring. If you ain't excited for that, get out of my face. So that is it. That is 5 games that I am very excited for in 2024. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one.